After working until well after 5 this morning to get the paper out for this week, we were very pleased to be alerted this morning that the Kansas Bureau of Investigation has requested that the search warrant be vacated and that all of our equipment be removed. Our attorney has announced that he is asked that it will be forensically examined. They've told him that nothing was ever looked at on it, but that the forensic examination would be done to make sure that nothing was. The one thing that is concerning me is we've been standing around here knowing this for several hours because we were told that we would be told about this first and that there would be a news release delivered from the county attorney in Marion County. We have not received that news release, but the Kansas Bureau of Investigation has released it from their PR offices in Topeka to other media. So we don't know why our county attorney has not decided to let us know this earlier, but it does kind of hint at the notion that maybe there's political motivations going on behind how the justice system's being used in this situation. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's simply that, oh, well, we were busy and we didn't get around to it. But it was enough of a certain thing that we were supposed to get this first that the fact that we didn't is yet another one of those things that makes you wonder. So we will have a paper today. We do have a paper today. We were, as we said, seized but not silenced. And we will be posting at some point, assuming we ever get a news release, the fact that it has been released, that our equipment's being returned. When it is, if it is, we don't know. We have no timetable for this. So, anybody have any questions?
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, do you know yet for sure that the equipment that's being returned was not examined at all?
We were told that, just like we were told we would get the news release first.
How frustrating is that here the KBI sends us out and you haven't heard squat from across the street, basically?
Well, I think, to paraphrase somebody who's been involved in this, I've been urging people to offer praise for Tony Mativi, the director of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, because he may have even cut a vacation short to come do this. But he was prompt and responsive to everything, unlike everyone else we have dealt with in this case. Someone said that it was refreshing to be able to deal with an adult, and I think that may be an appropriate line to use.
Eric, can you tell us a little bit about the pains, and I believe there's been some silver linings along the way. Can you just walk us through this journey for you from the past few days? I know it's been a lot.
From the very beginning, I mean, I've averaged about 2 hours of sleep a day, and the rest of the staff has done it too. Deb Groover's finger was hurt when her phone was ripped out of her hand. Phyllis has had, and Deb has also had some conditions aggravated because she's not had her cell phone available. Phyllis has had medical conditions aggravated because of the amount of time she's had to work. We've had absolutely nothing but grave difficulties in doing things. We lost all of our ads that were prepared. We can't find the logos of companies to put in ads. We can't find thousands of things that we couldn't find. We spent last night, if anybody had been here around 2 or 3 in the morning, Sherry Benz, who's standing in the back, was running around trying to find anything and everything. You know, where can we find the logo for this place, and where can we? I don't know how she was planning to enter. We have to enter circulation stuff on a spreadsheet that's on our server. We didn't have an ad log. Our ads didn't ever get put together. We had to redo a bunch of them at the end because we didn't have any place to put them. We've been working off of a computer that we dredged up 2 old Windows XP computers. And they were the only ones that had DVD drives, so you could go to our backup, but you have to stick your little finger in a certain hole in this DVD drive to get it to work. So we were doing it. I'm a great Star Trek fan. There's an old Star Trek original series where Spock is trying to make a time machine or something out of something, and he says, "I'm trying to do it out of stone knives and bear skins." And we kind of published a newspaper with stone knives and bear skins this week.
Do you think that was the point of the raid?
Gee, it would be interesting if it was, wouldn't it? And I always said from the beginning of this that we would get our stuff back Wednesday right after we published some week. Amazing. We're getting it back on Wednesday right after we publish someday this week. On a personal note, of course, my mother died. Very frustrated by this search. I will say she was the type of person who, although her last 24 hours on this world were very, very difficult and very frustrating for her, making her believe that her whole life had been worthless. This is the type of thing that she would really like. I mean, she would like to be thought of almost as a martyr for the cause. And to an extent, I think she is.
Tell us about your staff. It takes a heck of a staff under these circumstances to still crank out a paper and get it out on the day that everybody expects it to. Is a little bit late, but you still cranked it out.
Well, they're still talking to me after I yelled at them all last night. Sherry knows that in the back there. And it was, as I say, if anybody wanted great video of putting out a newspaper, starting about 11 o'clock last night, our normal deadline's midnight, we were pretty frantic for a while. Yeah.
Tuesday night and Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. But no, everybody pulled together and tried to do what they could. We had a lot of difficulties because we currently have a staffer who's working from home to care for her mother, and with our technology is limited, there's virtually nothing she could do. She couldn't get onto her computer because somebody else was using it, and so she left a lot of things undone, and we had to redo them in the middle of the night, and it just was, but the team came together. I mean, the thing is, this is a worthwhile cause. When I said that I would have gone out and, if we couldn't have gotten the newspaper printed, handwritten it on Post-it notes and taken it to every door in town, I think most of the rest of our staff would have too. I mean, it just was that important that we not be deterred by something like this. You cannot let bullies win. Cannot let bullies win. And eventually a bully will cross a line to the point that it becomes so egregious that other people come around and support it. And I cannot thank enough the support that we've gotten from journalism organizations, news organizations, people in general all over this blasted planet who just realize this isn't American democracy to do something like this, and have come together to do otherwise with it. So we're very, very happy about that. Very pleased that there still are some causes that people will come together behind, and when they're right and true and are fundamental natures of democracy. So.
Aaron, tell me what you think it means that the validity of the raid, that the equipment is being returned, and the KBI announced that they're not going to use any anything garnered in the raid.
Well, the key development came Monday when KBI took over the case, because we felt a lot more comfortable with the KBI having our items than local police who might or might not have personal agendas that they were wanting to follow. So the KBI at that time had told our attorney that they promised that no one would look at it until they conducted a review, which they said they would do on Wednesday, and in fact they did do it on Wednesday. We had some reason to hope that that would happen, and it did. So we've been relatively comfortable with, I mean, as comfortable as you can be with it, we assume that nothing happened over the week, and I guess ultimately I have to trust KBI. So that's interesting, because they apparently don't want us to trust us, you know.
Well, but did they take the equipment, the phones and the computers, did they actually take them out of Marion?
Not, at least according to what our staffers who had trackers on their phones said, that they were in a trailer either behind the sheriff's office or behind the county attorney's office, which are a half a block apart. And I don't know how accurate the GPS is, it could be one or the other. But so we believe they sat there all that time. One of them said that they thought it moved once. We have, over there's a little surveillance camera. We have a security camera. We have one in our middle room too. That's where some of you who got video of this raid do it. It also has a microphone on it. We have not listened to all that was said during the time that they were in the office, but we will be, and seeing what happens there.
You also, some of that we did hear, and I heard a police officer reading Miranda rights to one of your employees.
Yes.
What was that
Well, if I employed criminals, it would have been it would have been expected, but I don't. It's inconceivable of a journalist being read their Miranda rights for doing their job. Well, what's even more inconceivable is the person involved was sick the week that whole incident took place. She couldn't have been involved in it. She couldn't have been involved. And yet they seized her computer. Oh, but wait a minute, she's the one who had the documents that might have been looking into the chief of police. Is that a coincidence? Well, not making allegations.
Was there anything you were unable to publish in this week's newspaper as a direct result of the raid?
Oh, there's many stories that we couldn't get around to finishing. I mean, it wasn't that we were physically unable to do it, but just the time constraints that didn't let us track different things down. A great number of them, as a matter of fact. We have, my estimation, a fairly thin paper this week because it's all about us. And we've got, some basic meetings and other things, but nothing earth-shattering. We try to have something enterprising that breaks some ground somewhere each week. We would have probably written about the budget situation in Marion this week, which we think is the topic people should be talking about right now, but we didn't get a chance to.
Seems there's been a lot of discussion and maybe dispute in the town over the last several months, sort of about the paper's role, about its coverage. We talked to some people who have negative things to say about it, which of course is normal. I guess I'm wondering sort of what you think the role of the paper is in Marion, and what you would say to people that say, hey, Eric's editorials are too negative about X, Y, Z.
Well, first of all, I don't know any journalist anywhere who has never been accused of being too negative, has not been accused of being too negative, and also not being accused of making, these days, fake news. Basically, any news you don't agree with is fake news, and any news you don't like is negative news. And some of this is exaggerated by social media, where someone gets a few-word snippet out of some story and then starts reacting to it. My old journalism professor in me would say this is agenda setting and framing and so on and so forth, because they've established by their comment. I'll give you an example. I wrote a story a few years ago. The city was considering giving a $500 prize for Christmas lighting. And I wrote an editorial that said, that's a great idea, except the best Christmas lights in town are out at the county lake, and they don't have any prize. The only reason they do it is so they can keep up with the Joneses. I was excoriated for that remark, for the negativity of, they aren't doing it to be rivals of their families. This is not a Christian thing to do. The face of the sentence is not that. But once you put it on Facebook and establish that that's the idea behind it, he's thinking that we're doing this to rival each other, now you've become negative. That's where most of this negativity stuff comes from. And you'll also notice that most of the people making those allegations are not among your more upstanding, educated, responsible, leading citizens.
How are you feeling about, despite everything, and you, according to you, even sort of a thin paper, how does it feel to actually get the paper out successfully despite everything?
Oh, we're celebrating. We have been celebrating. We started celebrating last night. We actually, after we got done with the paper, I think we hung around for a while here in the newsroom just because we were happy to get it out. It was good to feel like you accomplished. I mean, that's actually, and I don't need to say this in a news conference because everybody here probably feels the same way. One of the great things that attracts people to journalism is you do something, you see it, you've got it there in your hands. That's why, I don't know whether the rest of you are like me or not, I like mowing yards, because you do something. Don't tell anybody that about sweeping carpet, but it's an accomplishment. And in this case, it's an accomplishment that we hope is actually contributing to society, not just contributing to knocking down weeds.
Has all the press coverage helped kind of spur things on?
Yes. It makes us feel like we're not alone. And very often in any environment when you're trying to pursue good journalism, you feel alone. You feel that people are out to get you. They want to argue against what you're doing. They want to say you're fake news, you're negative, they're whatever. They will always say that we're negative. We'll have a front page that talks about last week's front page. The top story on it was about a 10-year-old who's playing music with a bunch of, a 100-year-old guy at a senior center. Gee, that's really negative news. I mean, it's a feature story. And we had several feature stories, but we became a negative newspaper because of one of our stories. And we have lots of stories. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. I like to tell people our main goal for what's news is what's surprising. And if more things are surprising negatively, that's actually probably a good thing, because it says that most of the time good things are not surprising. Negative things are surprising, and so you want to address them. And as a good friend, if you've got a good friend who's getting ready to go to a job interview and they have a piece of spinach stuck in their teeth, you want to tell them the truth. You're not being negative and saying, I'm picking on you because you got spinach in your teeth. You do something about it. That's what journalism is trying to do, is let people in the community. We don't tell you what to do. We just say, hey, here's this situation. You want to do something about it? If you don't, well, personally, politically, I may not vote for you, but I'm not gonna do something negative for you. But it's your choice. We give you the information. You decide what to do with it.
Are you guys going to make any changes to the record as a result of this raid, or is it just
Absolutely not.
You haven't had time to think about tomorrow, but what does tomorrow hold for you? What's the plans for you now that?
Tomorrow I get to download about 5,000 emails and make sure they get sorted into our system properly. And I'm not kidding when I say 5,000. We've had 2,000 new subscription orders that have come in. They come in by email. And we've had more than that, various messages of support and requests from reporters to conduct interviews. And then all the regular stuff that we get, 7 copies of how the governor's celebrating National Rhinoceros Day or whatever it is. We've got to go through all that and get everything back up, assuming that our computers pass the forensics exam and can be put back up. So it'll be quite a bit of work just re-enabling that. Then it's going to get back to the business of covering news.
And you do not sound like your news coverage is going to change one bit.
No.
Get softer or.
No, we may have found a few topics that we want to investigate further as a result of this. We thought that Carrie Newell doesn't have a driver's license and didn't have one for 14 years. She took over a restaurant in February, and she's still operating under the liquor and restaurant license of her predecessor in that restaurant, and the licenses, we believe, in Kansas are not transferable. So we may look into that.
What do the extra 2,000 subscribers for your paper mean?
A lot of work for Sherry Bentz, wherever she is here, and actually for Nicholas, if he knows it yet. They aren't people who really are wanting to read our paper. There was a way to contribute to us. We've got an ad this week in SPJ. Yes, we've got a full-page ad from them, but we've also got an ad, a half-page ad from. If I can find it, we have a half-page ad from there. Where is it? Why am I not seeing this half-page ad? I'm just now looking for this. Well, we're going to have to look at that. It was from a gallery in an art gallery in New Mexico. They aren't doing business here. They just wanted to support us. But they may not have done it because we may have somehow lost it in our production last night. I haven't even looked at the paper yet that came off the press. So,
how many subscriptions did you have before the 2,000 came in?
our press run was about 4,000. It's a little hard to say because we're actually technically running 3 papers under one press run right now, and if you add up the numbers from our postal reports or the press association saying, it will actually come to more than 4,000, but there were some that got all 3 papers or 2 of them or something like that.
Bernie told us yesterday that gleefully, that he was tracking where your items were because one of them had a tracker on.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what that was like watching that, and what was the movement like?
Well, Deb Groover did it, and she's not here today. This is her day off, but I think she may be heading up. But I just talked to her on the phone. I don't know. I haven't seen the tracking going on it, so.
For a lot of Kansans, when we talk about Marion, it's usually debating on what's better fishing, the reservoir or the county lake? How disappointing
It's
is
the
it
county
that-
lake, I'll tell you. But
how disappointing is it now that for the past, several days now, the big talk about Marion is just this whole fiasco?
that actually is the single most frustrating thing about this, other than the assault on the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. But, the reason I came here is to do something for my hometown. I was born here. My mother lived here all her life. I've been involved in this town and trying to do something positive for it, which makes all these comments about negativity. Somebody wrote, he came back to destroy the town. No, I came back to help the town, not destroy it. And it really upsets me that it is getting negative publicity, that people do think this is some backwater, corrupt hellhole of a local government. And sometimes there are hellholes of local government or corruption or whatever else, but you deal with it. You don't condemn the entirety of something just because of the actions of a few people who temporarily happen to have power.
Do you have a message for the police locally here?
Well, I would have said, after I sent you the letter a week before your raid and offered to help you in finding anything that you wanted, it would have been nice if you maybe had talked to me rather than come and raid my place. We're still willing to, we will continue to cooperate in any given way. The document, by the way, that they were supposedly looking for was sitting on my desk about 30 inches from the computer they took. They left it there.
What kind of document was it?
The record that had Carrie Newell's letter that had been sent stating the conditions for the reinstatement of her driver's license, the one that had been given to us by a source. I think the reason they didn't want to take it was you could see that it was a Facebook message that someone had sent to us and we had printed off of Facebook rather than a document that we had downloaded ourselves. So it is very interesting that all of you reporters who have been around here, most of you have talked to more than just me or more than just whatever. Police didn't do that in their investigation. So I guess I'll go back to my days as a journalism professor. They wouldn't have gotten a very good grade on their interviewing skills.
You told me earlier in the week that maybe they thought they could come into Little Weekly newspaper and kick it around.
Yeah.
Did you make your point?
Well, I think any weekly newspaper needs to be able to make that point. We're lucky enough to be in a financial situation with growing circulation and growing ad revenue and an owner who doesn't really care about money. I should never say that too loudly because people say, well, give me a free ad then. We have a staff that's very experienced, including myself, and we're going to take crap. Now, I don't know if that's true everywhere in the country. It needs to be. It needs to be. And hopefully these other places will also see that, if you run into trouble, there are other people who can help you out.